What's up? Phil Murphy back again in the ESPN Esports studios where we're going to take a look at the League of Legends Global Power Rankings. It is crazy that we're coming up toward the end of the spring split. It feels like we just started 2019. But look at the calendar. It's March. The snow is melting. Slowly. Unless you're Emily Rand, who lives in Los Angeles, where they don't get snow, and when they do, it's national news. Emily, task at hand. League of Legends Power Rankings Top 5. To see the complete list, by the way, go over to espn.com/esports or click the link in the description. We're going to start at number 5, third straight week. This is occupied by RNG. Emily, question for you. What does RNG need to do to move up this list?
So they need to beat an opponent that is, one of the stronger teams in China. They looked really good against Victory 5. So there's two things. They need to, have strong wins against teams that they should beat. And they did that this past week, actually, against Victory 5. But then coming up, we have a headliner matchup between RNG and FPX. And a lot of what we know of RNG's strength is really going to be tested in the matchup against FunPlus Phoenix. So we're kind of keeping our eye on that. It happens actually tonight after recording this, so look forward to seeing them maybe move up or down depending on how well that matchup goes for them.
All right, we'll get to FPX in a second, but right now we are going to the number 4 team, dropping a spot, Top Sports Gaming. Let's talk about Knight. 12 champions played, 78 kills, 24 deaths. Not quite Chovy numbers, but impressive nonetheless. What else should we know about Knight?
So one thing that I really love about Knight is his versatility. He's played the most champions of any mid laner in the LPL currently at 12. Right behind him, there's actually 3 players right behind him at 11, but I think that speaks to his versatility. He's kind of impossible to ban out. And in their match against Snake this past week, you really saw how TOP can just beat you with their individual prowess. Knight was beating Mala in matchups that really shouldn't have gone his way, but he's just that good, and sometimes that happens with TOP. So yeah, Knight is every bit as phenomenal as promised.
Taking top sports spot at number 3, Invictus Gaming. And Emily, in the LPL, it feels like we're just playing whack-a-mole with these 4 teams. One team moving up a spot, another team moving down. In your opinion, what can IG do to start to differentiate themselves?
So I feel like this is going to be contentious because if people didn't watch the LPL, IG actually lost to FPX last week. So while TOP kind of stomped Snake, right? So you might be wondering, well, why is it like this? And that IG FPX series was really close. It was insanely explosive. FPX came out on top, but it was just a great match, and it really showcased that IG is still definitely one of the best teams in China. They're still my front runner to take it all and attend MSI as the top Chinese team. So I think that despite the fact that they did lose, IG is still looking like an incredibly formidable threat.
And I imagine they would have been up at number 2 had they gotten the better of FunPlus Phoenix. But to the victor go the spoils, and the number 2 spot in our power rankings, FPX, yet again in the number 2 spot. Emily, they have a tough close to their schedule, about half their games left against top-tier opponents. What's it going to take to actually knock this team off from the top of the LPL?
Oh, I thought you were going to ask the opposite. I thought you were going to ask, what's going to take for them to beat out Griffin and take that top spot. Yeah, we're really looking at FPX this week. They have their first kind of big test against IG, which they passed. And then they have RNG and TOP to take on this week. So we're really going to get a good indicator of FPX's true strength as a team after we see them face those 2 opponents next. But I think what's going to take to knock them off, because we've always been kind of hesitant on them, right? Like, we're not sure if they can play patiently, and then they show up and play patiently. We're not sure if they can beat a top team like IG, and they do that. So if they're going to stay up here, it's going to be in beating those other top-tier opponents. If they do get beaten, we will kind of reset our expectations for them and drop them down accordingly.
See, Emily, I would have asked about them getting to the 1 spot, but we do these every week. I got to keep the questions fresh. I'll get to that maybe next week or the week after that, but you told us where it was going to be. We all knew it. The kings of the LCK, the kings of the power rankings, at least this week, they are Griffin. Now let's talk about that excellent mid laner they have, Chovy, averaging 0.4 deaths per game. 0.4. Are we looking at the most valuable player in the entire League of Legends world right now?
Possibly. I mean, it's actually one of the few times that I think you look at MVP standings and you're like, okay, Chovy definitely deserves to be up here, whereas sometimes those are a bit more contentious, I guess, in the LCK. I think there's definitely a case for it. The thing that's so remarkable about Chovy is just how smart he is in these team fights, because Griffin, above all else, despite the fact that they've improved in other areas, they are an incredible 5v5 team. And the way that Chovy goes in and out of team fights doing damage, it's just insanely impressive. He has such a good understanding of multiple matchups, how to fight with his team. And yeah, I mean, he's up there in the discussion. He has to be. One thing I do want to point out is that Griffin didn't actually play this past week. So they maintain their spot because, you know, they didn't play, which could also be contentious to some people because FPX did beat IG. So we're going to see they actually have 2 matchups coming up against SKT and Sandbox, which are the other top 2 teams below them in the standings in LCK. So we're looking to see how they do this coming week against, you know, who would be their 2 strongest opponents as well, to see if they can keep that top #1 ranking.
Hey, glass is half full. They were undefeated this week, so they stay perched atop our rankings. And just looking at this,
that is true.
Just looking at this, Emily, it seems like we need to do a ranking on the coolest logos. TOP, G2, those are sweet, but we'll get there in coming weeks. For now, Emily, thanks so much for the time and insight. For the complete League of Legends Power Rankings, keep it locked on ESPN.com/.